Hello to all my bonsai friends on YouTube. It's Lee with Lee's Trees, and today we're going to take a look at this Ficus Microcarpa. And this tree was actually a gift from my sister-in-law, thank you. And I wanted to take a minute and give it a spin here. And I did repot this last year simply because when I got it, it did have some issues. And I'm not repotting it again well, I am going to do a repotting, but not because it has having any issues. But I read somewhere or saw in someone else's video that ficuses usually don't like the really shallow pots. Now I know many people do have them in shallow pots, but from what I understand, a ficus likes a little bit deeper of a pot. And so that's what we have today. And we are going to change that out for that. You can see the difference between the two there. And this is just a cheap little pot I got on Amazon. And let's take a quick look at the two different sides. It does have a really wonderful crackly glaze to it. Yeah, that looks like you can see that. And it came with them drainage screens, so we just went ahead and put some wire on them off camera. You don't really need to watch that. So anyway, back to our tree. Great little tree, nice, but it's, not really sure what kind of design to make with it. So I've been looking at it for a little over a year now. This picture is when I first got the tree in December of 2023. And I think I've decided, and I put this little crystal or, piece of quartz in there last year when I repotted it. And as you can tell, I think I'm going to do something like that. Simply because that would then give me, this is a primary branch. I'm probably going to get rid of this and keep this as a secondary branch here. I've got a branch going into the back here. I may keep the thicker one, we'll see in a minute. And then that'll, I can create a top out of that up there. And of course we'll be doing a trim on it. So, let's get started with it. And set that out of the way. And I can't remember, I don't think I tied this in. That's not going to be staying there very long, so no. So it should be able to just pop right out. All right. And there's a little bit of mesh there, some old screen. Take that off. All right. So, you know what, so I don't have to clean too much up here. It's currently April 7th, 2025. As we get working on this. And this was sent from a professional grower, big name in the bonsai business. And it was a air layer or a cutting, I believe, because it does have when I repotted it last year, you could see it had a pretty flat spot on it where it had been cut off as a branch and rooted. And like I said, I'm not doing too much of a repot with it. We do have, and I will be reusing the soil here. So on my one root here, I do feel a big spot there. So, all right, so let's grab some tools here. All right. So there's a little root coming down this way, and this root takes a 90-degree turn there, so we're going to cut that there. And then the rest of those are all going down. Actually, you know what? Let me take that back even more. There's one going down even better up there. Okay. It's got a downward motion to it. All right, that one has a little spot nub on the end we don't need. So those are all going to go down. All right, those are a little high on the trunk. A little tiny one up in there. If you hear some noise in the background, one of the cats is, I guess, having the zoomies running back and forth. Want to make their presence known to the video. All right. Now. Alright, so we got a few long roots there. Take those off. I'm holding this thing up in the air. I hope you can see it. Maybe I should check my camera real fast. Okay. So again, you know, just a couple little long roots here and there. Not too terribly bad. Not feeling anything going any too crazy direction. That one's got a little bit of a right angle to it, so we can snip it off there. Okay, actually, you know what? That one. Those two. All right, so that root was actually growing out that way. I had a couple of them. That one's, well, making a turn there from being in the round pot. Those I think will straighten out. Keep putting it back into the oval pot. Okay. Alright, let's get our old pot out of the way there. Hold that for a moment, take a few tools. Now, for this repotting, I did bring in a little bit of a larger, careful with that dust, actually went by, just give that a little spritz there. There you go, keep that dust down. And actually, let's mix those two a little more. There we go. All right. So again, I was thinking of putting it something like that, is what I was thinking. All right, I'm just thinking on it, giving it a look here for a moment or two, and I believe that is pretty close to what I want. All right. I'm sure a lot of people are going to give me some grief over using the different variations in soil, but it's one of those, I'm doing me. Okay, let's clean our hands off a tiny bit. All right, grab us a chopstick here. Yeah, we're definitely going to need a little bit more. So, all right, one moment. And I know I'm going to need more than this. I think I want to turn it a little bit more, so I might want to start over. Okay, so I had it turned a little bit too much that way. And I was wanted it turned more to me to give this, again, more of that, you know, they say you want to almost look like the tree is greeting you, like it's wanting to give you a hug. And so that, okay, that's better there. If I let that go for a minute, will it stand there? Okay, I think it will stand there for a moment. So that means I'll get my arm out of the way there. Oh, carefully. Okay, now. Make sure I get a little in between the two roots there. Let's go ahead. Now we can go back to, oh, careful, flopping around there. Again, because it is the first week of April and they are calling for a little bit of a cold snap tonight, I'm going to continue to keep this inside. A little spot sticking up there. And I get that one root going down, get it covered up. Let's tilt it that way just a bit more. Get some. Come here. Get, packing some soil up underneath there. There, we'll do the little twist and wiggle to really make sure we get that soil mixed in there good. Oh, see? I don't know if you could see that, but that'll had a little fill in there. Had a little pocket down in there somehow it missed. How's that looking? Yeah. I said we'll be working on those a little bit here. I do think it is better, and like I said, we're going to get started to trim and wire a little bit here in a moment. I said I'm considering that to be my front. So I'm going to take it outside, give it a good watering to water in the soil and the roots and get rid of some of the dust, and I'll be right back. It's been about 5 minutes or so. Like I said, I give it a good watering, made sure, you know, it flushed through really nice and clean. Let it drain for a few minutes so we can bring it in and get started. I've got a few different sizes of wire here for do a little bit of wiring, and to start we're going to start here, and we'll go ahead and cut this back because I don't need that branch to be quite that long. Let's see, because that is a little bit bigger one, let's see. Well, probably should have done this before I repotted it, but having that pot at that weird angle would have been difficult. I just hope I don't wiggle it around too much. Let me see here. So I really need to decide which. I think I do want to keep the thinner of the two branches. I know that's going to lose a lot there, but this one gives me a better angle branch that way. Let's go ahead and cut that out of the way, and we'll leave a little bit for a die back, and then we'll trim that back later. And we'll go ahead and take this one off. Big cut there. I hope I left enough die back there, enough of a stub. Okay, so while this is more than enough for that, I think that's what I need there. So, truth is, that one's pretty good. Okay. I have a smaller one, yeah. Well, that, oh, careful, don't. You know, I think that one, smaller one, might work. So let's try that first. Give ourselves a little bit extra. Try and do this very carefully. Nope, I did not give myself enough wire. Okay. Oh, let's try again. Yes, I don't believe I did. I'm just going to hook that there. I'm going to come back to here. Try not to wiggle it too much. Okay, so I've bent a little hook around here and I've wrapped it a tiny bit, wrap that up, give that a little bit more of a drop down, and we'll start a pad here. This one, I'm not really going to worry about wiring that. We're going to let that one, it's coming out at a decent angle at the moment, at least I like it, and let that pad continue to develop there some. I'll let it elongate. It is the beginning of spring, and then I'll cut it back here in a couple of weeks because it's really going to push out a lot of stuff, I'm sure. I'm going to give it some good fertilizer here in a week or so. All right, so we do have an eye poker coming at us here that we don't need. And like I said, I was thinking of making that my back branch. Maybe if I run that up there. That's going to be my leader there. And I have another couple of little side branches, a back branch there, leader. So I don't think I need either of those two yet because I've got a little one there we can turn into a back branch. So we're going to go ahead and, again, we'll leave a bit of a stub for dye back there. So eventually that will be a branch with a pad. That one can be a branch with a pad. This one will be our back branch. We're going to cut it back to there and let that one, we'll eventually put some wire, or here in a moment we'll put a tiny piece of wire and bring that down there. And then we've got a top to fill in there. Let's see. So I definitely want to use this thicker wire for that piece there. And we can bring that down. Tiny bit more. I want to lay next to that other wire. Actually, we can move that other wire out of our way and down some. I really like aluminum wire. You can reuse it, rebend it. Now, two wires are not crossing each other. They're not exactly snug up against each other, but they're not crossing each other. Snug that one down a tiny bit, tighten that a tiny bit, give that a... And we have not disturbed our root base in our tree too terribly bad. I'm still going to give it another chopstick or two here. Give it a tiny bit of a... See if we can pack some of that up underneath that. So, like I said, we have our primary branch, our secondary, we have a back branch, We have these two that, you know, this one will fill in there, this one will fill in off to that side, and we have our leader and another little back branch for the future up there. Just because we do want, maybe we'll get this just to, that's my Ficus Microcarpa. I hope you like the video. Thank you.